Will a trip to the Arctic end up bringing out unforeseen changes for the Man of Steel? And what old foes could possibly be waiting for him there? Well, let's hop into the pages of Action Comics issue number 1085 and find out together, shall we? So then, Superman Superstar continues with a brand new superstar writer. In this case, it's G. Willow Wilson of Miss Marvel and Poison Ivy fame, bringing us a brand new Superman story that the little text box at the beginning reminds us actually takes place long before the events of what's happening during the main Superman book now, and Absolute Power, though admittedly not that far back. Perry is still the editor of the Daily Planet, and he is forced to take Lois Lane off a hard-hitting expose on melting glaciers, to instead get her on a quickly developing story about a freak heatwave hitting Metropolis and the rolling blackouts that are accompanying it. Oh geez, I have a funny feeling that these two stories might be more connected than you think. With Lois no longer being able to take this business trip, she instead decides to pass off the responsibility to her husband Clark. Wilson actually writes a very cute Clark and Lois in the workplace. I like it a lot. Lois even does a sly job pitching this brand new investigation piece to Clark, saying that going to the Arctic will give him a chance to stretch his legs. After all, isn't that where his man cave of solitude is? This of course leads to an even funnier bit wherein Clark, in an attempt to try and keep up appearances of him not being Superman, is forced to take a very rickety, very dangerous looking flight over to Greenland. Even though he very easily could fly there in just a couple seconds as Superman, but he still has to make it look like he's regular old weak-willed Clark. Also, before someone makes the joke for me, yes, Greenland is the icy one and Iceland is actually the green one, go figure. Now, apparently there's been a lot of activity around this melting glacier the last little bit. A lot of mineral speculators looking to try and find whatever falls out of the ice, as well as the two climate scientists who Clark has come to meet today, though admittedly they thought they were going to be meeting Lois, and it leads to all sorts of hilarious misunderstandings at the airport, as apparently these two have no idea who Clark is or what he actually does for the Daily Planet, I suppose, in this world and in this continuity. All of Clark's best human interest stories must get paywalled behind the website. Don't you hate it when that happens? Now, the two scientists that Lois was supposed to interview are actually doing some really breakthrough stuff when it comes to trying to reverse the effects of climate change. Pumping in water from underground sources in hopes that it will refreeze the polar ice caps, as well as setting up dozens of solar panels to try and absorb solar radiation and slow the melting of the ice caps. I thought this was all science fiction, but after actually doing a little bit of Googling, I come to the realization that a lot of this stuff are either theoretical concepts to try and fight climate change or stuff they're actually trying to study now. Which, hey, good on G. Willow Wilson for making this story so topical. The only problem is that this research facility is suffering all sorts of setbacks. Their computers are fried housing all of the information that they've managed to gather, and they fear that it's not a mistake. They fear that they're the victims of sabotage, and wouldn't you know it, a few seconds later the facility ends up coming under attack by a pair of cybernetic polar bears. Jesus Christ, who wrote this? Kevin Smith? Luckily, Superman is on hand to fly into action and defend the two scientists. He also chooses this opportunity to showcase his brand new Arctic assault costume. Well, I mean, that's what I'm calling it, because let's face it, if this was an action figure in the 90s, that's definitely what the box would say. Superman only donned this suit after taking Lois's advice about how there's more people in the Arctic now than there's ever been before, and as such, he should probably try and go a little bit stealth, well, as stealth as he can be when fighting polar bears. Who, speaking of which, the second it looks like Superman is going to find something out about these creatures, they end up disappearing as if they were teleported away. Needless to say, the plot is thickening, and this most definitely looks like a job for Superman. It seems that someone or something has an invested interest in stopping the research that these two scientists are doing, and just to add an extra element of danger, everyone, including Clark himself, are going to be stranded here until the plane comes back later. Of course, when you're Superman, you're never really stranded, and Clark is able to make up another convenient story about being a coward who hid when the polar bears attacked. Later that same evening, Superman goes on patrol and tries to use his heat vision to try and see if he can't discover any evildoers who might be hiding in the ice. He doesn't discover anyone human. Instead, he ends up coming face to face with a giant robot that looks like it's straight out of the works of Toriyama. Seriously, I'm not going crazy, right? This looks like the robot from GT, just a lot bigger. This thing might be the size of a skyscraper, but it isn't particularly strong. Superman manages to tank an entire punch from this thing before eventually stopping it from destroying the facility where the two scientists are still residing. This robot isn't the mastermind, though, just the harbinger of something much worse, something that we discover is is none other than the supervillain known as Kilgore, an evil robot that you'll know pretty well if you read Flash stories or certain Justice League tales. This thing needs energy to survive, and now he's taken an interest both in glaciers and Superman as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Action Comics number 1085, everyone, and I swear just when I thought I was about done with Action Comics, here comes G. Willow Wilson to rope me right back on in with a fun, exciting, carefree, and yet also very topical Superman story. I don't know if it's enough to make you a believer if you're not already reading the Superstars era of Action Comics, but I did have fun with this one for what it's worth. I like the new Arctic costume on Superman. The white and aqua blue is a nice mix and a variant that I would certainly love to see pop up in a video game or something. And Wilson does a good job infusing this little two-parter with her own unique, quirky sense of humor. I would definitely like to see her write more Superman down the line. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 7 out of 10. Not exactly a game changer, but it also shows a fair amount of potential, and I'll be interested to see where the story goes in its second half. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.